Manta's back again on Facebook Live. This week we are talking event planning with the illustrious Ashlie Hannah.
Hey everybody.
And we're going to be talking all things event planning, networking, how to have the perfect event for your business. Ashley's going to give us all of her secrets. And before we get into that, though, we're going to do some housekeeping as usual. A special shout out and thank you for a sincere thank you for all the veterans who've served this country. Thank you so much, and we would like to honor you today. And if you have questions during this broadcast, you can put your questions below. You can also, afterwards, we'll post this so you can continue to ask questions and we'll get back to you with answers. Next week, we're going to be talking about business apps that you can use to just keep furthering your business, great business apps with Channing. He's going to be joining us next week. So let's get into it. All right. Give us some examples of events that small business owners can host or attend. Just some high-level ones, and then we'll get into more details around each of those.
Okay, absolutely. Well, some examples of things you might want to host. You have your obvious open houses and things like that, grand openings if you're a new business. But to maintain kind of a public face, you want to have receptions. So maybe one or two of those a year just to reach out to your client base. Just to maintain that personal kind of point of view and invite them to your space if you're able to do that is always a good one. Another is product samplings or demonstrations. So if you do produce something or you sell products, it's a good way to get people into your store and then to show them exactly what you provide without them necessarily having to purchase anything. They can just get a good idea, and it gives them a little bit more hands-on opportunity to do so. Seminars or workshops in your area of expertise. So you could do an in-person where you invite folks to come into your business, or if you want to rent an event space, if you don't have that opportunity to do so, is always good. Or you could do a webinar as well, which is a great low-cost way to reach out.
Or Facebook Live.
To your audience as well. Some that you might be interested in attending. Networking events with similar businesses or in the industry that you're in to connect with other business owners, get some ideas. Idea sharing is always good, or make vendor connections and that sort of thing as well. Chamber of Commerce events are something that is sometimes overlooked, but they're actually really great and generally are free of charge to attend and to keep up with your other local businesses, new businesses that may be coming to town, and things like that. And then trade shows and conferences. Those you can attend, but also might want to participate in, depending on the industry you're in and what exactly that you're doing at your business.
Yeah, we can set up a booth.
Yes, yeah.
Those are great questions, or great answers. If that went too fast for you, this will be recorded and it'll be available on our Facebook page afterwards. And we're going to get into more detail about each of those too. So,
yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to hold one of these events. Who should we invite? As a small business owner, who am I inviting to one of my events?
Of course, that depends on what exactly you're looking to get out of the event. But in general, there's going to be four major parties we're going to want to hit. Investors or stakeholders in your businesses is sometimes overlooked, but you always want to keep a good connection with them, and it's good for your clients and vendors to have FaceTime with them as well. So that's kind of a good connection to make. Your vendors obviously would be one as well. So, depending on who you work with and how you work with them, it might make sense to have them and invite them and keep that relationship, kind of friendly.
Yeah.
In addition to that professional that you would have with them on a daily basis. Your VIP clients. So you're going to want to reach out to them and give them a little special care. So maybe send a hard copy invitation with some flair to make it a little bit more special and make it known how special they are to your business.
We all love flair.
Yes, flair is great. little things you can do make a big difference. And then of course your entire client base and your customers. And you can reach them pretty easily through evites, Facebook, social media, If you're lucky enough to have a mailing list that they provided their cell phone numbers, you could send text messages, text invites as well. So there's several ways to reach out to them. And then really anyone else, maybe some past clients, old clients that are no longer clients, kind of bring them back in, show them what's new, and that type of thing.
That's great. Yes. Okay, so we talked about some of the different types of events or networking that we could go to. Let's talk about for a grand opening. What kinds of, I'm opening either an online store even we could have a grand opening for, or my brick and mortar business is opening a location. What different types of events can we throw for that?
Well, you have, if you do have that brick and mortar situation, you have your general ribbon cuttings, which are always fun. It's a great opportunity for pictures to kind of share that event with your potential client base or current client base. A general just open house is also nice. Provide some like cocktails and appetizers, just invite them into the space to allow them to see everything and kind of be able to touch, taste, feel, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you could do themed. So depending on your business, you could, especially if you're a virtual business or you don't necessarily have a customer facing office, you could go and use a venue that makes sense and relates to what you do.
Right.
So, you could go to some kind of bakery or, if you do like a mail order or you have your home bakery business, you could partner with another business that kind of, and then use their space. That makes sense. It kind of brings it all, back to your business. But yeah, and then virtually for like a website, if you're launching, obviously running any kind of special sales is always good for an introduction to the internet. Really bring your customers in, show your difference, and then get that solid client base to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. I really liked what you said about the touch, taste, feel. All events should really keep each one of those things in mind. What are your guests doing? What are they seeing? What are they tasting? How are they feeling during this event? Who are they talking to? All of those elements are really important, no matter what kind of event you're having.
Yes, absolutely.
I like that. Okay, so where should, you were giving some advice on where we're holding these events. So can you give us more specific places that we should start holding events?
Sure, yeah, especially if you don't have a storefront.
Exactly.
That can be a really big challenge, and that's understandable. You have several options. There's, especially nowadays, you'll find, of course, and the internet is your friend. So,
yes.
So be very resourceful when it comes to event planning is a huge tip from me is be resourceful, do your research, and kind of try to think outside the box too. And that's hard to do sometimes when you're busy and, very focused, but you can get a lot of great ideas that way. But there's a lot of different meeting spaces available now, and that's just for renting to have your event, and it's not necessarily a restaurant, or any kind of specialized space. But with that, they allow you a lot of freedom, and you can kind of tailor it to your own and make it make sense for your business.
Yeah, a lot of spaces don't allow you even to bring in like your own food unless it's approved by the hotel or wherever you're holding it. So
Right.
Those kind of just non-specific event places are much more lenient about it.
Exactly, and I think that's why they're so popular now.
Yeah.
In my experience with event planning, you do run into that very kind of exclusive partnerships that these hotels or convention centers or what have you have with vendors. It kind of limits your options.
Exactly.
So these open spaces are a lot more cognizant of that, and they know. So it is a booming business right now, actually. And then another tip too is that if you have to get a space, say you have an office and you're not necessarily a storefront, but you're holding an event for clients or vendors, and you want to keep it close to home. So keep it close to your office. I know even you might be tempted to have it in a more central location, but it just kind of, it makes it easier for you in the event planning process. It also kind of promotes your neighborhood and other small businesses in that area if you're going to utilize them for your event.
Yeah, how many times have you had to run back and forth because you forgot something?
Absolutely.
Much easier if it's 15 minutes.
Yeah, you're always going to hit a bump in the road. You know, it may be very small, it may be big, and you've got to be able to work around that. So you want to set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
In that keeping kind of things close to home and convenient for you as well.
Yeah.
Another option are restaurant private rooms. So they can vary from very small to actually pretty large. You'd be surprised, even just looking at the outside of the building, how big these private rooms can be. So with that, again, though, you're generally going to have to get the catering from them and that sort of thing. But they can be a great space and very easy and available.
Yeah.
They don't tend to book up as quickly as specialized meeting spaces do.
Well, and two, a lot of times they'll give you the room for free if you can guarantee how much food you're buying or how much bar you're purchasing.
Exactly.
So then the room price is less. So there's a cost advantage there sometimes.
Sure. And again, and events vary, so it just depends on what you're looking to do and the size of your event as to what's going to make sense for you.
Exactly. Okay, so let's get on to the next question. And guys, you can keep sending in your questions. We'll get to them on live.
Yeah, absolutely. We can, for sure.
So how far in advance are we planning events? Say we're holding the event either in our space or a space that we're renting. How far in advance do we start planning? How far in advance are we sending out invitations? Things like that.
It sounds cliche, but my answer will always be as soon as humanly possible. You can never plan too early. As far as, initial planning goes, from concept, some of the first things you're going to want to do is lock down your venue. If that's what you're doing, you need to lock down the venue, get with your caterers, your vendors, and go ahead and make sure you have all of that in place, or at least are able to give them a preliminary number so that they can plan and have that placeholder. And then in the meantime, the closer you get to your event date, you can call them, update them, and make adjustments as necessary. But just the knowing that you have that locked down takes a lot of the stress out of event planning. And you can always confirm several times depending on how far out you're planning. But in reality, on average, they say 2 to 3 months in advance is a good time to start planning. So now you will get caught sometimes and you're going to have maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's not impossible, but you do have to adjust your expectations a little bit and possibly your budget too. There may be some extra costs associated with, reserving some things or things like that. So you just have to adjust.
Well, and if you pick a venue that has on-site help for some of this stuff, I mean, a lot of times they'll provide you with a really realistic timetable, or they'll provide you with good vendors to choose from that they already have on hand, so that you're not really spending too much time searching for that, especially if you're on a time crunch.
Absolutely. Yes, I found some very helpful vendors that have helped me out of pinches, and they didn't even benefit, but they have the experience and they appreciate the situations that you're in. And they love return business as well. So
yeah, and they like when you tell other business owners, I loved this place. This is what they did for me. So,
yes.
Okay, so how much are we spending on these events? I mean, I know that budgets are tight. So, what's a ballpark?
Well, I'd say on average, you'll want to allocate about 20% of your marketing budget annually to events. Now, reasons that this could vary, either be lower or higher. It might be lower if you're an established business. So you've been around for 10, 15 years. You basically have maybe one event a year in which you invite the outside to come in. And you might have one associate or employee event as well.
Yeah.
Or 1 to 2. So your budgets are probably not going to be as high, especially depending on the size of your staff for those. But if you're a new business, you should expect to bump that up a little bit, because you're going to have your grand opening, you're going to have open houses after that, you're going to have sales and special events regarding sales to kind of bring that new customer base in. So you should adjust accordingly for that as well. And then also industry. It depends on what you do. So some folks might go to a lot of trade shows. And those can get rather pricey sometimes, especially including travel if that's necessary. So when planning your year ahead, if you can look at those and include those in that budget as well, that would be beneficial. And then also any special projects. So are you planning a new product launch? Are you doing a big, migration of some sort? Any other milestones and things like that might come up throughout the year, be cognizant of those as well, because you might have some extra costs associated with that.
Right, and sometimes you can even tie what your business does to a certain national event. Okay, so we sell fireworks and 4th of July is coming up. That's a pretty one-to-one tie that you're gonna get more business, and you should be holding events during that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I really like too that you were talking about associate events. It's not something that we'd really hit on before. It's important to give back to your employees and make your employees feel like they're special, and events are one way to do that.
Absolutely. And especially nowadays, you might want something where you feature your employees with a customer event as well. So it kind of all ties in together.
Oh, I like that. That's good. Okay, so how are we promoting? Now we've got our event. It's all set up. We want people to come, right? How do we get these events out there?
So obviously number one, I think, would be social media, which is also, it's always a great, most of the time, very inexpensive way to get the word of mouth out. And it's very easy for people to share that information as well. So you're not the sole voice with that. Sometimes you can get some help. So that's good. And then if it is more of a public event, especially an open public event, you could do a sponsored event on Facebook or something like that, where it kind of pops up as an ad to anybody, and you don't have that restriction of only your Facebook friends or only those that like your Facebook page. So that's a great way. Still, we do evites, just via email. If you have your customer mailing list, or the text again with that mailing list is always great information to have, and gives a little bit more of a direct personal feel. It sounds silly almost nowadays, but an email is pretty personal now. So that's another great way as well. And then you've got your kind of old school, you've got radio ads. Again, if this is a big public event, you could go to your community boards, like the physical boards at your restaurant, your local restaurants and the post office and things like that. You could always put it up there too. So there are a lot of ways to get the word out. And those are some good examples.
I like it. Okay, so you are a very organized person. I know this about you. I love this about you. How would small business owners keep themselves organized during events? Heather, even I've been doing this for 10 years, I still get flustered, and, there are times where I feel scattered when event planning, because there are so many moving parts and third-party vendors and things like that. And when you're dealing with, outside entities, you're kind of on edge a little bit. So to kind of take the stress away from that, some tips that I have and things that are tried and true for me, and some of it sounds kind of obvious, but write everything down. Write everything down. Yeah.
If you're on a phone call and you have a new piece of information, make sure the first thing you do when you get off the phone is to write that down, or put it in your memo in your cell phone, or something like that. And then with that information, take the time, 5 minutes, maybe a week, just to organize it in some way so it's easy for you to reference if needed. Personally, I use Excel spreadsheets. They're my favorite. They're easy to use. They're easy to manipulate the data and things like that, comparatively to some things. And you always want to keep certain nuggets of information on hand. Your vendor information, their contact information. Any of the orders that you've placed with them, you definitely want to keep that on hand. And that kind of thing. And then you also just want to keep the basics of who, what, when, where, have all of that on hand, because sometimes we get, and you're running a business too. So this isn't like the only thing you're doing.
Exactly.
So it's hard, it's easy to lose track, but just, stay the course and make sure you have all the basics. And then of course your guest list. So I would start with an entire guest list if it was a very specific invite. And then, you may have multiple RSVP, what should I call that? Sources. So you could have an online RSVP.
Right.
You could have an actual online registration page. You could have, people mailing you back RSVPs, and sometimes you have multiple. So as they come in, you can keep track very easily that way, and then you can keep an idea of how many attendees are actually coming and adjust, your vendors and things like that as necessary.
And
too.
it's also helpful to know so that you can follow up with the people that you were expecting to RSVP.
Exactly, that as well. And then for the tech savvy, there are free apps right now that you can go and download, and they're for organizing and planning events specifically. And it kind of takes all of those elements and makes it much more user-friendly. And the advantage of using those, they have reminders. Did you forget this to do? Because you will forget to do's, and not all of us have assistants. Most of us don't. So, it's nice to have that virtual assistant there to kind of help you along the way.
Do you want to name drop?
Sure.
All right. Give us some apps.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I haven't used any because
you're so organized. Yes, we know.
I've got a down pat, girl. But just again, the internet's your friend. Just do some research and find the one that makes sense for you.
Yeah.
Because some of them are tailored, for smaller events, bigger events, and that kind of thing. So,
right.
So there's a lot out there. Just kind of do your homework.
Yeah, well, I know there's ones that will even create an app for you for your event, like a C-vent or something. So when I'm trying to organize events, I'm constantly waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat because I feel like I've forgotten something. So having some of those, and then I write it down in my notebook by my bed. But having somebody else being on board, knowing that this event is very stressful for you, really helps.
Yes.
Ease that from you. So
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so how many people are we expecting at our events? We've invited all of these people. What kind of RSVP are we expecting to get?
Well, they say 30% of your guest list. So you send out all your invitations, and whatever that number is, take that 30%, and that's a pretty good solid number to plan for.
Yeah.
Of course, that will always vary, depending on the event, the guest list size, and that kind of thing. So I guess my advice would be RSVPs are very tricky nowadays. A lot of people on Facebook, and I do it myself, you'll say I'm interested or I'm going to an event just to keep track of the event, or you forget about it and you kind of ignore it and what have you. So I wouldn't rely on social media RSVPs as much as you could from, again, say an online registration site or something that's very specific to your event, where you can get more solid, RSVPs as opposed to we're just kind of following this event.
Right. I'm taking RSVPs back though. Like, if you RSVP, please always RSVP, and if you do, show up.
I agree. I'm absolutely on the same page as you. I hold my own personal events, and it is frustrating sometimes. So yeah, try to.
Okay, we've got two. Join us.
Legitimize Facebook RSVPs.
That's right.
So there's that, and then of course, if you have paper invitations that have gone out, and you're requiring any kind of RSVP back, you can pretty much generally guarantee that 99% of those people will be attending if they say they'll attend.
Yeah.
So take that 30% and then kind of adjust with RSVPs, and you can kind of get a sense too of interest from social media.
Right.
And
if
the
you've got a
chatter
big public blast.
Exactly.
Right. And with the paper RSVPs, though, it really helps to have like a deadline date on there too. Like, this is when you have to RSVP by. That way you can really plan with your vendors. And how you set that date is when your vendor needs to know a final number.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad you brought up deadlines and due dates. Always give yourself cushioning. So when you set up your own kind of timeline, always push back, 5 days as I have to have it done by this day.
Yeah.
Don't really have to have it done until this day. But with things that could come up, personal procrastination, just any of those factors that can come up, you want to make sure you've given yourself some cushion so you don't have hard deadlines.
Exactly.
And are stuck with or without,
Exactly. All right. So let's get on to the next question. All right. Virtual events are the new trend. We're having one right now. We're going to have one on Tuesday. Join us then. And next Friday, too. So virtual events are the new trend. How are small business owners going to get involved in this? And is it more cost effective?
I would say cost effectiveness, absolutely. Absolutely. Holding an event can be very expensive. And to that note, I want to say prepare for fees and taxes and things that you didn't expect.
Yeah.
So that will happen with that. Now with the virtual events, you don't necessarily have to worry about those types of things. So it's very low budget, but it also gives you a broader audience reach. I mean, because really you could open it up that anyone could join and could participate, and
they don't have to be in your geographic location.
Exactly. And they don't have to leave their house either, so that's a plus.
Shopping
too.
in your jammies.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are some other benefits to holding virtual events, because depending on what you do and when you hold it, it can improve your SEO search. I mean, it can actually improve your online presence. So it's kind of a twofold win-win situation with the virtual events. So
I love that. Okay, so we talked a little bit earlier about going to trade shows. Somebody else is having a trade show event, and we're bringing our booth. What stuff do we need to bring? What are we bringing to these?
My rule of thumb would be pack as if you're going to work from this place for 5 days. I know that sounds silly and maybe a little over the top, but this is one of those times where you won't have an opportunity to run to Walgreens and grab an extension cord if needed. You need to be on when you're there. So a few tips: always be there very, very early as possible. Go the night before if you can. So be very prepared. And then some items that I would definitely bring, or make sure that I had on hand, or maybe just in your car if you don't want to bring it in. So again, extension cords, surge protectors, things you don't really think about, but they're always needed. A staple gun, push pins, several kinds of tape for any promotional items or anything you have. Extra poster board and markers in case you need an impromptu sign for some reason. And I know some of these things sound silly, but they are common issues at trade shows.
Scissors.
I've
gotten bit by that one before.
Yep, scissors. Lots and lots of pens. People will steal your pens all day long. You'll be left without pens.
You want them to steal your pens.
Yes, make sure your brand's on that pen.
Exactly.
And with that, extra notepads, extra tablecloths, any cables for media setup. So that's another big one that you might find yourself. Even a simple phone charger. That's the worst, to get caught without a phone charger. It seems pretty basic, but we all still do it. And then people really love beverages like bottled water and soda and what have you. So always have refreshments and mints. Everybody loves mints, and you'll need them throughout the day. I discourage gum. You don't want to have gum at the trade booth. Always bring mints. So those are a few things. And then another obvious yet missed item: business cards. So in the time leading up to your event, make sure that you have business cards, and you want to check a couple weeks before, because if you are low, you're going to need to order them, and that's going to take some time as well.
Yes, good point.
Yeah. So, and then of course your promotional signage, any promotional items, if that's what your forte is, and you want to give all that stuff away with your name on it, which everyone always loves. So yeah, those are some things that I would definitely make sure are on your list. And then again, do some more research depending on your business. Depending on the trade show, there could be some additional things that you might want to have. So just do a little bit more research on that online as well.
I like that. Okay, so is there anything else that we missed that you want to make sure we hit?
Just the basics. Plan as far in advance as you can. Lock down vendors as soon as you can. Always confirm at least a month and then another week in advance with those vendors to make sure everything's on track, and to give them confirmed numbers of attendees and things like that. And then don't stress too much, because if you do, then it just becomes even more chaotic. And just breathe. Everything will be fine. And in the end, if you are able to, you can always reach out to an event planner. And they're super helpful. This is what they do for a living, so they can also be an additional resource for you as well.
Great advice. Well, we really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us.
I'm happy to.
Okay, so again, you can keep sending your questions. We'll get to you. Next week, like I said, on Tuesday, we're going to have another event. We're going to be talking about social media. That is going to be a workshop, actually, so we expect questions. We'll come with some of the ones that we've been asked in the past, but really we want to hear from you guys. we're talking B2B social media challenges. So get specific. Hey, I am a plumbing company that does commercial. I'm trying to get on social media. How do I do this? Things like that. So we'll see you on Tuesday for that. And next Friday, 12:30 as usual, we'll be talking about business apps. So thank you once again, and thank you, veterans, for your service.
Thank you.